Hey everybody, it's Kirstin Nussgruber here from Kirstin'sCancerCare.com. And today I want to focus on a healthy snack. Why? What's going on in my life right now? Well, I'm about to embark on a 2-week trip to Europe to catch up with my family. Our families are spread in different continents and different countries, so we have to always go to quite lengths to try and meet up and see each other over the years. So that requires some extensive stay at airports, maybe flight delays, but also sitting on airplanes and not wanting to necessarily eat the airplane food. So what do we take along as a healthy snack, which of course is something that, we always kind of want to have handy in our daily lives anyway. And I wanted to talk to you about nuts today, because it seems simple, and you probably hear a lot of the advice is nuts are healthy, it's a healthy snack. Instead of buying bars or buying your muffins or bagels or donuts, take along some nuts and away you go. And there's nothing wrong essentially with the nut. Nuts are chock full of great nutrients, lots of minerals as well. However, what we need to pay attention to is that nuts, they are plant-based foods, right? Great source of protein, great source of fats, plus all the minerals like magnesium, calcium, potassium, zinc. They also have what is known as anti-nutrients. Now, what is that? That is a plant's self-defense mechanism against the ravages of nature, right? So when we now eat this plant food, it may or may not agree with our digestive system, depending on how intact our digestive tract is, also how inflamed are we. So those are all kind of things that play a role here. Nuts can aggravate that. Why? Well, some of these anti-nutrients that nuts have are lectins, phytic acid, oxalic acid, and there are a couple of other so-called enzyme inhibitors, meaning that they can actually mess with the functioning of certain biochemical reactions inside your body. So let's have a quick look at lectins and what are they, because you find them not only in nuts, you find them in seeds, you find them in some of the nightshade vegetables as well, like tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, potatoes as well, right? You also find them in corn. And we have to just be mindful of it. We find it in wheat as well, right? So lectins in wheat has got nothing to do with gluten. So if we think we are not sensitive to gluten, which is a type of protein in wheat, yet we are sensitive to these lectins, we could be having similar symptoms, yet we are not officially gluten sensitive. So all the whole grains in general, anything made with whole wheat or whole grains also contain lectins. Again, this is it's a sticky kind of protein that the plant coats itself with. And our digestive tract does not necessarily agree with it. And it can actually damage our intestinal lining to a degree that it can either contribute to or exacerbate leaky gut or intestinal permeability. And that is a condition where we have our gut lining in which, in our gut we have digestion taking place at various stages, and the cell membranes of our gut lining, they need to be really firm and tight, right? Nothing is supposed to pass through, or what's on the other side, it's our bloodstream. So if we have leaky gut or intestinal permeability, which is the same thing, it means that this tight lining has been compromised. There are little holes in which undigested food particles can get through, thus causing inflammation in the body because the body reacts to it. It's not supposed to have those nutrients in that form floating around in the blood yet. They still need to be fully digested. And that can be the domino effect of having a leaky gut for years and years on end, and it can lead to all kinds of inflammatory conditions and symptoms that aren't as easily diagnosed, right? It's not a particular disease, but yet it can cause extreme discomfort right down to, body aches and pains that can't be officially identified. So these lectins can damage these tight cells, right? We have these tight cells in the intestinal lining, and lectins can attach to that and actually cause damage and cause them to open up, causing this leaky gut. Oxalic acid is another of these so-called anti-nutrients that we need to be very mindful of. If our system reacts to oxalic acids, we can also have symptoms such as, digestive discomforts. Immune system can be compromised. We can be suffering from debilitating headaches or other kind of body or joint or bone pain that can't be pinpointed to what it really is. So these phytic acid is another one, by the way. We just need to be mindful that nuts have that. Now, this doesn't mean that nuts are poisonous and we shouldn't be eating them. It means we need to prepare them in a very specific way. So first of all, when you purchase nuts, you don't want them to be salted already, right? You actually want to have the nuts raw, and then we can do a couple of things to them to reduce the lectin content, reduce the phytic acid content and oxalic acid content and the other enzyme inhibitors. We can actually prepare them in a particular way that makes nuts more digestible and thus nutrients more bioavailable, because that's another kind of kickoff from one of the anti-nutrients, the phytic acid, is it actually almost hinders or prevents some of the minerals that are found in nuts to be absorbed. And of course, we don't want that. So what can we do? We can ideally soak the nuts for at least a 12-hour period in some water with a little bit of apple cider vinegar to it as well. That alone already reduces some of the anti-nutrient content. We can also heat the nuts. What I did here is I actually roasted them on a big baking sheet in the oven. And the timing depends. I mean, I had a whole baking sheet full because I'm doing a whole batch full here. The timing there is probably I did it for about 15 minutes for this amount, right? This whole bowl full. So it really depends how many nuts you want to use. And then smell. Stand in your kitchen and see if you have a really good smell, because that gives it away as well. So heating them up can also reduce the lectin and anti-nutrient content in nuts. You can dehydrate them then as well after soaking, which is either in the oven over a very long period of time, or you have a special dehydrator. That's kind of the ideal scenario. But soaking them and then roasting them in the oven is also kind of a solution to, at least you know that you have prepared, you've processed your nuts at home, right, in your own kitchen. What I do then is I now have my nuts, and I did a combination of, I've got almonds in here, I've got some cashew nuts. They're the sweetest and the most high on the glycemic rank, but I kind of like that little bit of sweetness there. That's kind of my whole food sweetener, so as it were. I have walnuts in here, I have pecan nuts, Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are very, very high in selenium. And selenium plays a key role in cell apoptosis, which is cell death. Now, when we are cancer fighters or survivors, that is something that we want to hear. We want cancer cells to be able to die off. And the selenium, one of the minerals, plays a key part in that, in keeping the ability of the cell to die off when it's supposed to up. And the Brazil nuts are very high in them. So I've included them in here as well, and some almonds as well. Then, once they're warm, come out of the oven, I use a bit of olive oil, right? And I sprinkle some olive oil over it. And I've made a concoction of spices here. And I'm going to put this over here because my nuts are warm and I want to keep them warm. Now, why do we spice our nuts? Well, first and foremost, it tastes good. It's really, really... I'm just going to do this quickly. Smells divine. I wish I can transport the smell back into the video here. Spices, first of all, taste good, but this gives us a great opportunity to introduce some cancer-fighting spices into the mix. Why? Because they can affect a particular cancer signaling molecule called nuclear factor kappa beta. That kind of is also referred to as the cancer cell master switch, and it can increase cell growth. It can switch on the tumor growth, all right? So we want to suppress that. And some of the cancer therapies out there, certain chemotherapy drugs, are actually doing that. So we can do it naturally by relying on the spices and having a fully stocked spice cupboard at all times. And the spices that are used here, because I like the taste and the combination, I used Himalayan sea salt because it's full of minerals. I used freshly ground black pepper. And then I have cumin. I have turmeric, of course, and I have chili powder, a mix of chili powder. That gives me a really, really great flavor combination, which you can play around with this. You can pick any spices that you really want to do. You can even put some dried herbs into this too. I kind of do what I feel like doing, right? If I want to change something. But what I always include, I always try and get the turmeric in there, because that's such an anti-inflammatory spice that should just be part and parcel of a lot of the dishes that you do, all right? And then I just, as you could see, I just mix it up and let them cool. And then I pack them into my little baggies, okay? So we don't want any warm food to get in touch with any plastic, right? So if the only way you can transport this easily, like when I fly in the airplane, we can't exactly take a glass container along with us. It's very heavy and we have to be conscious of weight. We want to take it either in little brown paper bags, or if you do want to use plastic bags, at least the minimum you can do is wait for this to cool down. It needs to be absolutely cool down, no warmth, before you fill those little plastic bags. Ideally, you can get these brown lunch bags that you can buy as well. So that would obviously be an ideal solution in terms of storage as well. So speaking of storage, where do I store my nuts? I store them in different mason jars, depending on how much I need. I buy them just in bulk. It's cost effective and economical that way. Do I use nuts all the time? Again, because of the fact that they have these so-called anti-nutrients, everything in balance and in moderation. That kind of is my mantra. We just have to, we can't choose any particular food and then, just dive into it and that's all we do. Like, this is going to be your own entire snack. No, we need to spread that out. Make this an occasional snack. Don't have this on a weekly basis. And again, when we prepare those nuts, and the absolutely best way to prepare them is to soak them and then dehydrate them. Then that way you're really kind of severely reducing the lectin, phytic acid content in particular, and making them a lot more bioavailable and less of an anti-nutrient food. So don't eliminate nuts from your diet, but also don't make it the #1 go-to snack if you just grab it raw without preparing it properly. It is important. Why? Because we don't want to contribute to inflammation. When we are cancer fighters, cancer survivors, we always need to be mindful of what inflammation inside. This is not inflammation we feel like when we see a raised bump or something, inflamed joint, or when we get bitten by a mosquito, it becomes inflamed. It's not visible to us. It becomes visible in a feeling sort of way when we are bloated, we have digestive issues, we might have chronic headaches all the time, or we might have joint pain. So those are the kind of signs and signals that there's internal inflammation going on. And cancer cells can use that to their advantage. Plus, of course, it weakens your overall immune system. It just can't fight back as efficiently as if there was no inflammation or we keep that down. So let's not add to that scenario by the healthy foods that we eat. Let's just be mindful about how we prepare them. And that way we just all are a little bit more conscious about us, our relationship to our food, and that we just have to be mindful that even the healthy choices out there sometimes need to be tweaked a little to make them bioavailable to our systems, right? And then again, our own bio-individuality comes into play. I don't know what's going on inside of your gut or inside of your system. That's why when I work one-on-one with clients, we kind of deep dive into that to try and see what would be the best solution for you, and then putting people on certain restrictive foods for a time period to see if symptoms improve. But also, this is a subject that I go into in my First Steps program, which is First Steps to Take Control of Your Cancer Care. It's an online self-help program that right now I'm offering at 60% off. So it's only $197 instead of $497. It's 6 modules plus lots of bonus material that you have all the time in the world to complete. You can go back to it. It's kind of membership based, so it's very doable. And it really is to help you get out of the overwhelm of where do I start? What is healthy? You know, people tell me I should eat nuts. Well, I've just given you a tip what you need to do in order to actually really make sure that this is a healthy food. In this program, we go into nutrition, we go into some emotional self-care, and we go into mindset too, right? Those are all key components to kind of tackling our cancer care, whether we are going through treatments or we are beyond treatments. So look out for the link. There it is, right? First Steps to Take Control of Your Cancer Care. More information is provided there. Have a look, and I would love to welcome you to my tribe and see you inside the program. Take care for now.